31,000 years ago, someone buried a newborn beneath the shoulder blade of a mammoth. Around 7 weeks later, they came back, moved the enormous bone, and placed another baby inside. Ancient DNA eventually revealed why. The two boys were identical twins. One had died around the time of birth. The other had survived for almost 50 days. And the grave preserves evidence of what happened to both of them. It reveals how the surviving child was cared for, why the grave was opened again, and how prehistoric humans treated two of their most vulnerable children. The grave was discovered at Krems-Wachtberg, an Upper Palaeolithic site overlooking the Danube in what is now Austria. This was not a permanent town. It was an open-air camp used by small groups of hunter-gatherers living through an extremely cold period of European prehistory. Beneath layers of wind-blown sediment, archaeologists found a carefully prepared grave containing two tiny bodies. Both infants had been covered with red ochre, a natural mineral pigment repeatedly used in prehistoric burials. But the grave contained something even more unusual. One infant was associated with 53 beads carved from mammoth-ivory. The beads showed almost no wear, suggesting they may have been made specifically for the burial. Other ornaments included perforated shells and the tooth of a fox. These were not two bodies discarded in the ground. Someone had deliberately prepared this burial. But the strangest clue was the mammoth bone placed above them. Instead of filling the grave completely with soil, the group covered it with a carefully shaped mammoth shoulder blade. That meant the grave could be opened again, and the evidence suggests that is exactly what happened. The first boy appears to have been placed shortly after his birth. He had probably lived for only a few hours. The mammoth bone was then positioned over the grave. His twin remained alive. For approximately 6 or 7 weeks, someone had to feed him, protect him, and keep him warm. Chemical evidence preserved in his developing teeth is consistent with him receiving milk after birth. That means his short survival was not accidental. Human newborns require almost constant care. They cannot walk, feed themselves, or regulate their temperature as effectively as many newborn animals. And caring for 2 babies at once would have placed enormous pressure on both the mother and the wider group. This may have been especially difficult during winter, when food was limited and every person's energy mattered. Yet the second child survived for nearly 50 days. Then he died too. And this is where the burial becomes more than an archaeological discovery. The group did not create an entirely separate grave. Instead, someone returned to the original burial. They remembered where the first child had been placed. They moved the mammoth shoulder blade, and they laid the surviving twin beside his brother. DNA later showed that the boys were monozygotic twins. They had developed after a single fertilized egg divided into 2 embryos with nearly identical genetic material. Prehistoric burials had previously been suspected of containing twins, but poor preservation made those relationships extremely difficult to prove. These boys became the earliest identical twins confirmed using genome-wide ancient DNA. Yet their genetics may not be the most important part of the discovery. The grave preserves a sequence of human decisions. Someone prepared a burial for the first child. Someone continued caring for his brother for several more weeks. And when that child died too, someone decided that the twins should be placed together. We cannot know exactly why. It may have been part of a burial tradition. It may have reflected a belief about twins, or what happened after death. It may have simply seemed right to keep 2 brothers in the same place. Archaeology cannot prove grief, love, or religious belief, but it can show effort. It can show that the grave was remembered, and it can show that people returned to it weeks after the first burial. 31,000 years later, the names of everyone involved have disappeared. Their language is gone, their beliefs are unknown, but the basic story is still recognizable. 2 babies were born. One died almost immediately. The other was kept alive for several weeks, and when he died, the people caring for him returned to the grave and made space beside his brother. These may be the earliest genetically confirmed identical twins ever discovered. But the most powerful part of their story is not that they were twins. It is that after 31,000 years, we can still see that someone remembered them. Why do you think the grave was reopened? Practicality, ritual, or something closer to love?